World in Motion, how New Order's classic football song scored a winner. Catchy, well-crafted and credible, World in Motion saw New Order collaborate with the 1990 England squad, yielding an unlikely number one.
Dig. Music in depth.
As Metallica's partnership with Lou Reed or Kylie Minogue's liaison with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds have proved, rock and pop can sire some truly unlikely collaborations. However, when New Order announced they were teaming up with the England national football squad to record 1990's official England World Cup song, World in Motion, it raised more than a few eyebrows. It's important to put this in context. In the late 80s, New Order were known as the band who rose from the ashes of austere post-punk's Joy Division and reinvented themselves as chart-friendly synth-pop pioneers. Indeed, as the country was gearing up for Italia 90, New Order were at the very peak of their artistic credibility. Tapping into on-trend sounds of Ibiza and acid house, their latest album, Technique, had topped the UK charts, and the band was seen as godfathers of the indie dance crossover scene, which was turning fellow Mancunians, the Stone Roses and Happy Mondays, into superstars. Why would they write a football song? Scratch beneath the surface, and you begin to realise that the project wasn't entirely devoid of logic. In fact, you discover New Order were offered the job primarily because of their musical innovations. In the late 80s, the UK Football Association's press officer was David Bloomfield, and he was acutely aware that the game needed an injection of credibility. Consequently, after he discovered New Order had already soundtracked the TV chat show Best and Marsh, Bloomfield contacted Wilson to see if the group would be interested in submitting the Italia 90 song. In typically cavalier fashion, Wilson immediately agreed to the band's involvement, even though New Order were technically on hiatus and working on solo projects. Calling it a great compliment to be asked, Peter Hook told Manchester Evening News, "The great thing about New Order is we always used to do things for devilment. If there was something we shouldn't do, we would do it. We flew in the face of doing anything normal, and it was a great trait. So we said yes. And of course, we were then absolutely terrified, as we didn't know what to do." For lesser groups, football songs were often tantamount to career suicide. The 80s alone had yielded wince-worthy anthems, such as Chas and Dave's Tottenham Hotspur FC song, Ozzy's Dream, and the execrable All the Way, which trundled off the stock Aitken Waterman conveyor belt to accompany England's disastrous Euro 88 campaign. As Stephen Morris dryly observed in his memoir, Fast Forward, the football song at that time was widely held to be a new low in the already subterranean genre of the novelty record. Nonetheless, New Order wouldn't be deterred. They had a head start in creating World in Motion, as they redeployed Morris and Gillian Gilbert's instrumental theme tune for UK TV's current affairs programme, Reportage, as the bedrock, but then added it significantly, with Bernard Sumner composing a whole new section in addition to the song's lyric. The band then turned to another collaborator, actor, comedian, and soccer aficionado, Keith Allen, to concoct the song's mid-section rap. Tony knew him and knew he was a crazy football fan, and Tony decided what New Order needed was Keith Allen to give us balance, as we weren't mad football fans, Hook recalled. He came along, and my God, it was like a hurricane. We were wild, but he made us look like kittens. He was bonkers in a wonderful way, like a Tasmanian devil. We were open-mouthed at him, but he fitted in perfectly. Produced by Stephen Hague and featuring a suitably memorable chorus, World in Motion already sounded like a dynamic pop song, but New Order had no idea what would happen when they finally got to meet members of the England squad, or whether any of the players would be capable of adding value to the song. After much persuasion from Tony Wilson, around half a dozen members of the team, Peter Beardsley, Paul Gascoigne, Chris Waddle, Steve McCon, Des Walker, and John Barnes, showed up for a session with New Order at Jimmy Page's Berkshire studio. To break the ice, they were offered generous reserves of free champagne. Gazza downed 3 bottles of champagne within about 15 minutes, and he didn't even bother with a glass. Peter Hook recalled of the midfielder. He was hilarious. He came into the studio and was convinced it was an alien spaceship. But John Barnes really rose to the occasion. He took it over. He helped Keith Allen write much of the rap section, and he nailed the performance within seconds. We just got the rap done, but then the footballers all suddenly got up as one and left, Hook added. I ran over and grabbed hold of one of them and asked, "Where do you think you're going?" And he said, "Listen man, we've got to go and open a new branch of men's clothing store, Top Man, in Middlesbrough." New Order lost out to the clothing chain on that day, but they'd already got what they needed. With the addition of a few strategic football-related samples, including a re-recorded version of commentator Kenneth Wolstenstone's famous "They Think It's All Over" quote from the end of the 1966 World Cup final, when England beat West Germany to take home the trophy. World in Motion was all set for release on the 21st of May, 1990. Credited to England New Order and accompanied by a memorable video prominently featuring John Barnes, the song struck a nerve with the public and raced up the charts. Knocking Adamski's Killer from the top spot, it rewarded New Order with a UK number 1, and they achieved it without sacrificing a shred of credibility. Sadly, England didn't quite go all the way at Italia 90, as they agonisingly lost out to West Germany on penalties in the semi-finals. Partly due to the World in Motion, though British football's public image improved throughout the 90s, with influential England FC representative, sports entrepreneur John Smith subsequently admitting that the song was probably the forerunner of everything good about English football in the 90s and 2000s. If it hadn't been for World in Motion, you wouldn't have had good later football songs like 3 Lions, Peter Hook told BBC in 2020. In a funny way, it actually brought us together, because we hadn't had a great time doing Technique. We were basically splitting up before then, but then we came back together to do the song. For us and for Manchester, World in Motion was a real coup.
Dig. Music in depth.